You're live.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the City of Beaumont Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and we'll start with a land acknowledgement. We are pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We acknowledge all those who share a deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. As we gather here in the traditional Treaty 6 territory, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect and honor all of life. And with that, we'll move on to number 2, the adoption of the agenda. Just looking for a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Someone willing to move the agenda? Oh.
So move, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We'll move over to the voting screen and we'll start the vote on that. Thank you. Voting is over on that and it's moved unanimously. Next, we'll move on to item number 3, the adoption of the minutes. Just looking for a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Councillor Barnhart.
Yes, Chair, I would be pleased to make a motion to approve the minutes that the May 16th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Thank you very much. And start the vote. Thank you all for voting. That moves unanimously. Which brings us to number 4, presentations and designations, and we'd like to invite the 3 people in the audience. We got Kim, Christy, and Sarah up, and we'll do the community and social development key initiatives update. Thank you. Which number is that one? Can you press the talk button on that one and then it'll flash? Is it 3? Oh, there it goes. Number 9. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Why wouldn't it be top left? That's right. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kim Williston and I am the Community and Social Development Director for the City of Beaumont. And I am here this evening with Christy Starling, who is the Supervisor of FCSS. Is there feedback? It sounds really
it's a little bit echoey.
Echo. I'll maybe further back. I'll come here. And next to Christy, we have Sarah Bodchuk, who is the Supervisor of the Chantal Berube Youth Centre. So the reason that we are here with you this evening is to provide you with an update on community and social development key initiatives. So those are namely the affordable housing strategy, which I will present on. We have the age-friendly strategy, which Christy is going to present on. And obviously Sarah will provide updates from the youth centre. So before I launch into the affordable housing update, I think it's important to set some context here. I think we're probably all aware that nationally, Canada is experiencing a housing crisis. CMHC claims that by 2030, 5.8 million new homes are needed just to keep up with the population growth, which is quite considerable. And with Canada's population growing, which was just over 1 million in 2022, of which immigration accounted for 96% of that growth, it's no surprise really that housing starts just have not kept up with that tremendous growth. Therefore, housing is actually no longer attainable in certain markets, and the community's need for homes that actually people can really truly afford has resulted in many initiatives, and one of them is through the federal government. The federal government has set a target for 2.5 million homes to be built over the next 10 years, which is huge given the issues that we have with trades, with materials. But I just want to set the stage because this is not unique to Beaumont. And I think we need to remember this as we go through the updates that I provide you. So the affordable housing strategy that was led by the Planning and Development Department with the city and supported certainly through community and social development sets out a plan for addressing and identifying housing gaps and supporting the well-being of community members of all ages and income levels. So obviously our lens is certainly from the community social development lens, which is that well-being lens, rather than the planning and development lens. So you'll see that reflected in my update this evening. I forget, I always have to do the next slide. It's like I'm waiting for somebody to do it for me. So some of the key highlights, you did see some updates that were presented in Appendix A, but I wanted to just kind of pull some of those highlights for you. So some of these statistics that I actually got were from our own research and work that we've done internally, but I want to acknowledge that some of them were actually received through the needs assessment that Leduc Regional Housing Foundation did in late 2022. So there will be a presentation by Margot, the director from the Leduc Regional Housing Foundation in September to council. So I'm not going to go into depth and steal her thunder, but obviously there is a lot of crossover from the information gleaned from that and needs assessment and a couple of the points that I am going to touch on. I think probably one of the most significant factors is that in Beaumont, over 84% of the population own their own home. That is abnormally high. That is high in Alberta, and that is particularly high nationally. So while one would suppose that that is a good stat, and it certainly is on the surface, that creates some complexity for us in acquiring developers, certainly builders, who are looking at Beaumont as an attractive place to build, because they're seeing this as a fairly affluent community, needs are higher in many other communities that surround Edmonton and area. So while that stat can be looked at as good, the dark side of that stat is it does make it a little bit more challenging to attract those developers that can go to other communities. Needs are higher, grants are more accessible when the need is higher, etc. So I think it's important to kind of set that stage as well. Then when we move on to that, so that the next bullet talks to Beaumont's rapid growth. So the concern that we have in Beaumont currently is the rental market. So the rental market is really where we focus our attention to for other affordable housing, whether that's affordable market or non-market. And some of the stats in the Leduc Foundation report revealed that we only had, I think it was 16 units that were purposely built for rental in the previous year. So it's just not enough. It's certainly not enough. So again, I can't speak to the planning perspective on that, but of course that is some cause for concern. I think one of the other points, and I know council certainly raised this in previous presentations, was we need to be looking at we need to look at shelters, transitional housing, shelters. We don't currently have one in Beaumont, and as you are all aware, but there is one in the Leduc hub. And so we're looking like regionally, transient housing, shelters are very expensive to operate. And that is not a cost that can be borne necessarily by one municipality. So in discussions that I've had with my colleagues just regionally, we do like this regional approach. The hub seems to have a model that is working. Does it need some additional supports? Absolutely. And I know that the city of Leduc is looking at that as we move into sort of more of the fall winter season. Having said that, when we pull the stats from the hub as they relate to Beaumont, only 2 individuals in Beaumont actually access the hub. It's quite a low statistic. So I would probably suggest that maybe some of our homeless individuals are going probably north into Edmonton. We don't have statistical information on that, but that's kind of what that low number would suggest if I'm sort of making some assumptions there. So it's certainly something that we're going to continue to work on with our regional partners, with the city of Leduc. They are coming up with some ideas that will be announced shortly. So we will be providing updates as we hear them. The other topic that I did, the other topic that I did want to bring up is you're all aware that the CMHC, we were recipients of a grant. And so that grant is actually being used. And I'm going to provide a little bit of an update, but this is from planning and development. So as a result of getting that grant, the city did apply and are now working on a process, and they're looking at 2 streams. So those streams are looking at a mapping tool to make it easier for builders, for developers, to look at current land availability, to look at suitable areas for affordable housing. And so hopefully this mapping tool will be able to be accessed through an electronic platform, and it will provide some important information that can be gleaned quite quickly to see if Beaumont is where a developer might choose to develop, or builders might look at developing affordable housing in our community. So I do sit on that committee, but realizing that that really isn't my expertise. Also, with that mapping tool, the hope is through sort of an analysis framework, we can look at ways that that tool will help support planning and development. So they can look at things like permitting. Can permitting be fast-tracked? Are there internal processes that can be more desirable so that developers do want to come to Beaumont and see Beaumont as a desirable place to develop affordable housing and to build affordable housing? So there's a lot more information on that, but that will be brought forward by planning and development at a future update. So I think I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot of information. I'm going to hand it over to Christy. Christy's going to give a bit of an overview on the age-friendly strategy and some of the updates, again, from the community social development lens.
Sorry, can I actually pass this around? I apologize. My allergies are acting up, so I will be right back.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going, you're good to go,
Yes,
Sarah? We're going to move to
absolutely.
Sarah and
Click over to my slide.
oh yeah, sorry, unclicker.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Perfect. So like Kim said, my name is Sarah and I'm the supervisor of the Chantal Berube Youth Center. A little bit of history, if you are not aware, the center was opened in 2004 by a young woman named Chantal Berube, and she gathered like-minded individuals to advocate to have the center opened in the Beaumont community. Unfortunately, in 2011, she tragically passed away, and we were able to rename the center after her in 2013 on her 30th birthday. So that's pretty cool. And Chantal was a very skilled relational youth worker. She let young people know that they were valued in our community, that they mattered. And we just do our best to carry on that vision at the center. I apologize, I'm a little bit low on oxygen. So if I sound out of breath, it's because I am. Sorry, can you go just one back? Sorry. Thank you. So the center is a drop-in center for youth aged 12 to 17. They can participate in a variety of programming at our center. We have trained staff on hand if they need any help with supports and services. And again, we really just do our best to, when a kid walks through our door, that they feel welcome and safe and help them with whatever they need. Some of the trends that we're seeing at the center are very complex, especially since the pandemic. We have lots of young people that are struggling with mental health issues, difficult family dynamics, substance abuse issues. We've had youth come through our center that are couch surfing or experiencing homelessness, and also food insecurity. There's some stats on that on the next slide. But before we get there, some of the programs that we've been offering at the center, some new programs. Bridging the Gap, which is a really cool program that I can't take credit for. Our previous youth outreach worker, Sabrina Kuhn, had the idea to bring in adults in the Beaumont community that are trustworthy and maybe have something to offer young people, to give more of an opportunity for youth to be exposed to adults that they can trust and build relationships with. So we've done that program 3 times already. It is a monthly program and it's gone over very well. We're hosting it again this Thursday and we're going to be playing some mini golf. So if you want to come by, you're more than welcome. We have a great response from the 55 plus club, but the goal is to kind of invite anyone who's interested in working with youth into our safe space and to just let them build those relationships with our youth naturally. Another really great program that we started again this year is Tween Takeover, and that is for youth age 9 to 11. We were getting a lot of phone calls from parents asking about programming for 11-year-olds. So we're just trying to give that age group the opportunity to use the youth center just as a teenager would. And that program happens on Saturdays bi-monthly. And another really cool program is Gaga Ball, which I don't know if you've heard of, but our youth basically build a ring with our 6-foot tables. And it's everybody jumps in the ring and you have one ball and it's like dodgeball. Similar rules, a little bit different, but the kids honestly just love it. And I think they're just looking for an opportunity to like move their bodies and play, which is really cool. We actually have to get them to stop and like take a water break because they just love it so much. So that's been really cool. And then our Dungeons and Dragons, which is led by 3 high school students, which is really great. I can't speak too much to Dungeons and Dragons because I don't know a lot about it, but the kids really love it and it's a monthly program. And we also successfully hosted a drag brunch on June 1st to kick off Pride Month. Some of our summer programs coming up, we have some wellness days, our Fired Up Fridays, which are really popular. We've been doing them for years where we close the center and host a parking lot party. And it really just provides the opportunity because lots of kids are kind of roaming about in the summertime, going to the skate park, going to Cordial for a Slurpee. So our staff can just kind of check in, see how they're doing, if they need anything, and let them know what we're up to during the summer. Thank you, Kim. So some statistics here, and I know that you have this in your report, but these are just from 2023. So from January to April, we had 383 current membership at the center. We've had 1,304 in-person visits. So the center uses the Intelli system, the same at the pool for the scan-ins. That's how we track our membership scan-ins. We've provided 55 mental health referrals, and we've had 5 youth in need of housing supports. Yes, thank you. Oh, I thought I had one more.
Oh, did you? Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, no worries. You're just click friendly, no worries. So just some successes and future goals. I'm very proud of the youth center. I love hearing out in the community youth talk about, I came to the center because I knew it was a safe place and that I could come here and get help. And same when parents seek us out just to thank us for helping out with their family. And also the center can be a place where a kid can just come and be a kid. And that can be just as powerful and therapeutic as a young person seeing a counselor. A lot of our kids experience stress at school, at home, in the community. So when they come to the center and they can just laugh and be a kid, it's very powerful and very cool to see. We also have staff that are very passionate about working with young people, which is wonderful. A lot of our team have previous connections to the center. So maybe they were youth that once use the center or they did their student practicum at the center. And then I always joke that once we reel them in, they're ours. So we're very lucky that way to have such a strong team at the center. And we also have wonderful partnerships with businesses in the community, the schools, and just more opportunities to kind of foster those positive relationships with young people. So that's really great as well. Another really cool thing that's up and coming is we're going to have an article in the Youth Centers Canada magazine, kind of showcasing the center and some of the programs that we offer. So when that comes out, I'm sure that will be circulated around. So I'm very proud about that as well. As well as when I return from maternity leave this time, I would really love to see a community mentorship program come to fruition. I actually did all the groundwork before COVID for this program, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic and then just having things being put on the back burner since returning to work, it hasn't happened, but I think it would be a great addition to the center and the community. There's tons of research that supports mentorship, evidence-based, why it's so good for young people. So hopefully in the future, that's something that can happen. Yes. That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, last but not least, age-friendly strategy. So just to provide a little bit of context, the age-friendly communities foster healthy aging by providing environments that enable autonomy, dignity, and full social participation of people of all ages and abilities. So we just wanted to lead with that to provide a little bit of context. Some of the key updates in the age-friendly strategy include the Beaumont Older Adult Service Directory. So our department created a directory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It's available digitally and in print. So we circulate it to seniors in the community, and it's also available for pickup. I obviously won't go through it page by page, but it provides some of the key resources in Beaumont and the area. So we find it's a hot commodity. We are happy to say that as of February 2023, there is now a satellite location for the food bank right here in Beaumont. So it's a satellite location for the Leduc food bank, but we're very happy because it provides a pickup location for folks right here in Beaumont, including seniors who often have limited mobility. So we were very pleased to see that open in February. Seniors Week, so that's an event. We have a week that has events hosted annually. The one that we just had, we did have a band called Over the Moon, and we had our very own Mayor Daniluk attend and also help serve seniors. So thank you for that. We had approximately 130 seniors attend. It's probably the biggest Seniors Week celebration we've had in years. It was very well attended and we've received a lot of feedback. That event is nice as well because it's also an opportunity to build awareness about FCSS and really showcase some of the programs that we have, especially in connecting with seniors that maybe we wouldn't normally see through our doors. The Beaumont Sport and Recreation Center. So we're happy to report that anyone aged 75 years and up is free anytime to drop into the center. Age 60 and up are able to attend for free from 12 to 4. So again, we found that for any senior that might have a financial barrier, we've removed that, and we're happy to report to see high numbers attending. Some of our seniors and programs include, but are not limited to, elder abuse awareness, wills and estate planning. We've actually just started having live international walking tours and armchair travel, which seniors have loved. And it's been really nice, especially coming out of COVID. A lot of folks haven't traveled. Maybe their passport's not up to date. Maybe they're just not in a position to do so. And they've loved, we've gotten so many folks out for these programs. They've really seemed to enjoy them. One of the takeaways that was developed by our department is the Peace of Mind Planner. So this was part of the wills and estate planning. And again, it flew off the shelf. So it was hand delivered to seniors. It's also available in our department for pickup. And I would say this is a really great document for anyone of any age. Yeah, that's great. Oh, and one last thing we didn't mention specifically the legacy program in our seniors programs, but I think most of you know about it, and it was the intergenerational program. I believe that most of mayor and council received their own books on the program, but that was just one that we wanted to touch on as well. Again, that was a really powerful course and program because we connected with a lot of seniors that we didn't normally see come through our doors. So it was a nice vehicle, if you will, to get some of those seniors in, connect them with our services, and really let them know more about what FCSS does do in the community. Almost. There were 2 age-friendly recognitions that the city of Beaumont received, one federally and one provincially. So that's really exciting. If you go to the websites, you'll actually be able to read about the recognition that we did receive, and it does link you to our age-friendly strategy and resources on our website. And last but not least, we had the opportunity, so our department had the opportunity to provide input from an age-friendly lens in order to reduce transportation barriers. So I know when we talk about age-friendly strategies, we talk about aging in place, mobility or lack of is often something that we touch on. So it's been really nice to use the strategy to have that lens, to provide that information, to say, you know, where are we at and how do we improve? And we found that to be really beneficial.
Okay, so that concludes our update. So we're happy to receive questions.
Great. Thank you very much for that great information. And I personally love a bunch of the stats, and I have a couple of statty type questions that I'll throw up after, but open it up to committee members for questions. You're up.
Thank you, Chair. My council colleagues know that these issues are near and dear to my heart. So really don't have too many questions, probably one for each, because I thought I'd limit it somehow, because we don't want to be here all night. And my questions come from just pure interest, nothing more than in terms of concerns. I'll start with housing, which I think I know the best, and you probably expected I would go there. Being the chair of the Leduc Regional Housing Foundation, very supportive of the work that we're doing together. And I just want to say thank you for involving the foundation in the work that we're doing here and vice versa. I think it's really important. One of the challenges that we have at the foundation is that the name Leduc Regional Housing Foundation tends to put people kind of thinking, well, that's not Beaumont, or they don't think of it right away when they think of housing in Beaumont. And yet we have 2 facilities here and facilities in the region. As you mentioned, the regional perspective is so important. So I don't know if you've considered this or not, that it's even possible, but as part of your affordable housing strategy, our affordable housing strategy, is there a way that we can do more to raise the awareness of the vacancies that are available? For one thing, for example, for seniors in supportive living, there's vacancies right now in Leduc. So I'm just wondering whether there's any way that you've considered that, and if you have any ideas that, again, in the spirit of partnership, what can we do together on that?
For the chair to Councillor Barnhart, we have this great relationship, as you mentioned, with Leduc Foundation. So when there are vacancies in any of their units, seniors or otherwise, they do send us regular updates and lists. And in fact, some of their staff reach out to us to let us know there are vacancies. So then that's when one of the social workers generally in our department, whether it in this case, if it's seniors, does reach out, like she does reach out, whether it's through Club 50 Plus or through her various connections. Or more so what tends to happen is she's aware of seniors that have those housing needs. So very often it's the phone call coming from us saying, yeah, we have somebody that's in need of housing, and then obviously they have to go through the eligibility and criteria. But absolutely, the relationship that we have with Leduc Foundation is really critical, and it's a two-way dialogue. And I think we're a bit of a voice for them in this community. I think Margot and her team do great, but I think they do look to FCSS in the communities, and including us here in Beaumont, for speaking about the housing, what's available, what the needs are. It's critical. We have to work together.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. One of the thoughts that I had was, but we don't do the fall fair anymore. I think that's one of the things that we haven't done since COVID. I'm not sure if that's coming back or not, but if there are opportunities for the foundation to participate in any of the outreach that you have, I just wanted to put a plug in for that. I think you're probably already doing that, but in case there's another opportunity, we don't want to miss that.
Actually, that raises a good point because we are looking at, and I don't know, we're going to pull it off this fall, but at a seniors like trade fair.
Mm.
So absolutely, Leduc Foundation would be one of the partners at that fair. So I think that's an excellent opportunity for them to showcase in the absence of doing like a fall awareness.
I know you've seen the video that LRHF, I think you have seen the
I
video.
wanted to show the video, but that's Margot's to share.
Oh, okay.
Just, yeah.
You haven't, no, you wouldn't show, but you know about it,
I've
and
seen
it's
it.
a fantastic
Yeah.
video.
Mhm.
Anyway, moving on to age friendly, in that order. The welcome services and the connection there to how do we reach out to people that are just moving into our community. It's not only seniors, but I see it's listed here as part of the work that FCSS is doing. Timelines and what help you might need there. Again, this is something I think is so critical with, we have so many new homes that get built and people move in, and the sooner we can make outreach to them and let them know they're welcome, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So I wonder if you could just speak a little bit more about that. Give me a little bit of an update.
Sure, through the chair to Councillor Barnhart. Excellent question. So I'm happy to report that our EDI coordinator E is actually working on our welcome services right now. We have a communications campaign that's underway, and we're hoping to have the website live probably within the next few weeks is our hope. So that campaign is underway and it should be launched very soon. So
Does that tie in with the other piece around ambassadors? Because I see that as one of the other actions, that there would be ambassadors who would also be reaching out to people. Because
Yes.
again, I know the website is important. We
Mhm.
need to work that. But again, that personal touch often does a lot more than we even realize sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. And so the ambassador piece and the logistics of the program will be information listed on the website. So the website will just be one piece of it. It'll be that key touch point to get information out to the community, along with, we have an FCSS campaign that's coming, pardon me, as well. So all the logistics of the program will come out through that campaign and through the website, and the ambassadors are certainly a part
So
of that.
this fall is what you're saying?
We're hoping earlier. We're hoping the
Or maybe
website will be
soon.
launched. Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
watch
no,
it.
that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And the Chantal Berube Youth Center, Sarah, good to see you again. I haven't seen you in a while. The stats, I just want to clarify in my head. What's the difference between a member and a visit? I get, is there a membership fee, or is it just someone who has registered? Like, what do you mean by member?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Barnhart. So a membership is the total amount of youth that have current membership at the youth center. So that 383, we have 383 youth in the Beaumont community that have a youth center membership. The scan-ins are how many times a youth has come to the center and scanned their card. So that's how many.
So that's
visits.
multiple visits by the same people,
It could be, or different.
or different.
Yes.
But then the membership, does it come with other benefits? What are the benefits that they get from membership?
Well, we're free. Our services are free.
That's what I'm trying to get my head around.
Yes, yes. So it is a free service. Essentially, it's just to kind of help us keep track of the foot traffic that comes through the center, as well as like if we need any extra information about the young person, we do gather where they go to school. So if we're seeing any behaviors that we're looking to provide extra supports around, we can reach out to the school counselor and kind of just make sure that that young person is supported.
But you're not saying it's a requirement to come there. People can drop in.
They can drop in. We do ask for a membership from a youth after a third visit. If there is a barrier to that, we will work around that. If they don't have a membership, say they just like walk by the center and they're like, hey, what's this? What's going on? They can still come into the center and we'll track them on paper. We usually just ask for an emergency contact as well as their name. And then after the third visit, we really try to get them to have their membership form filled out.
Okay, but it's not a barrier. It's meant for us to be able to help them, to
Yes,
support them.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the intent of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for all the work that all of you are doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Over to Councillor McCauswayne.
Yeah, thank you and welcome back. Good to see you guys again. Maybe I'll start with you, Sen, and work backwards just to keep it interesting. First, I was really interested in what this Gaga ball was, and I saw the picture up there, and so I'm fired up, and maybe one day I'll get to come and play. Just curious, I mean, every time we come in there and talk to the folks and the staff, and as well as some of the youth that's in there, I mean, we all walk out of there just super impressed, and then walk away with, okay, what could we be doing more, right? And we have this conversation that comes around, budget time and all that sort of thing. But given you've got a nice little bit of leave here coming up, what if there is one thing for you to think, when you come back, hey, like, council provided us X, right? Whether it's staffing, whether it's something capital that we could put towards the center. I don't feel we provide. I know the city provides enough support. Maybe I'll speak for myself, but I don't feel that I advocate or provide enough support on our side for all the work that you guys do. So, what are some of the things that you think would really help kind of short term here that we could really make a difference?
Through the chair to Councillor.
This is your chance.
Yes.
I should have tipped you off.
First of all, we are very grateful and thankful for the space that we do have, and to be municipally funded is such a gift. And our center does act as a model, like across the province, across the country, even in other countries that I've visited and been lucky enough to present at. So we are very lucky that way. We do have a part-time youth outreach worker position that we have been advocating for it to go full-time. Just we've seen such an increase of young people that are struggling with more of those complex issues that the team at the center doesn't necessarily have the training or expertise to be helping those young people with those complex issues. So that is something that we could definitely use some more support around in the future. And then it also just opens the door, like I was saying earlier, for those kids just to come to the center to have fun and to laugh and to play. And to be kids can be so therapeutic, but there are that group of kids that need that specialized support. And it's just really important that they get it and that they have somebody to stand beside them and to advocate for them. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And Mike hates when I ask those questions because I know there's a process for budget and you roll it all up, but they're here, so I take advantage. So thank you and keep up the good work. Maybe shifting back over. One of the things that I struggle with and I hear a lot when I'm connecting with some of our seniors is just that communication tools. And so I'm really curious around how you guys have done that. Like I always hear, I didn't know about this because, it's always on your social media page and, not everyone, but not everyone is on Instagram and all that stuff that we put a lot of information out. Things like they wish they would participate in the bus on demand study, but they didn't know about it. They wish they knew that, it was free from 12 to 4 or free if you're over 75 to get into the rec center. So I know you guys, you communicate a lot better than I'll say myself. But as a city, like what are some of the better ways that we can start to get that? Because whenever I see the stats around who's providing input, it's always a big gap, and you guys know this better. So just curious on how we could help communicate better with our seniors around some of the things that we're doing.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Munkoff-Swain. Thanks for your question. And that's something that we're always looking at as a department as well, is what are the key touch points to getting information out to seniors, because we find that it ebbs and flows. One thing that we were lucky enough to do when we completed the research on our EDI framework, we actually had focus groups that focus on seniors and feedback. And so we actually included a section in on that to talk to them about what are the best ways for us to get in touch with you, because we don't want to ever assume what those are. So Kim is going to be presenting the framework to SLT, is it next week? Week after. And then once it's been presented to SLT, we can move forward on some of those findings. So that's a piece that we've taken back. And we're also intertwining that. We're currently working on our FCSS campaign that I was mentioning a bit earlier. So we're going to be rolling that piece in to say, what have we historically done for touch points with communication and how can we do that better? So we actually have a lot in the works as far as looking at massaging that and feeding it out a bit. Right now, we do collect feedback from seniors, and we have found a lot of them do use our city Facebook page or our FCSS Facebook page. A lot of them also really enjoy our newsletters, our monthly newsletters. They Seniors seem to love that. We do put a lot of information in print material as well. And then we make sure that our seniors coordinator is in the Beaumont 50s Club, is in the manor, and is doing a lot of that community outreach even on foot. So we're looking at the ways that we've historically done it, but we're also excited that we have that data to say, how can we do it better and how can we improve on that?
Yeah, and I guess, and you talked about presenting to the leadership team, because obviously integrating that within our comm strategy. There's no point, and I'm sure you're talking with Berezowski, there's no point you three knowing it all, and it's not getting back into that avenue. And the example I'll give is when we had a voluntary water ban on. There's a senior lived nearby was watering their garden, and someone came by and said some pretty terrible things to this person, and they didn't know about it. Like, how am I supposed to know about this, right? And so those are the little things that you hear that, and not only do you get frustrated, and I'll choose my language carefully at the individual. We talk about senior abuse and how we treat seniors and stuff, but that individual, like I said, if they knew that, they definitely wouldn't have been doing it. They just felt terrible. So not putting that on you or on the city, but just those are the sort of little things, right? Like if we can get people where they're at. So anyway, that's it from me. I'll spare you, Kim, today. I usually bombard you with questions, so we don't often get these guys here. So anyway, thank you. Keep up the great work. And you can tell by the attentiveness from everyone here that this is really important to us. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCook. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the report and for coming in. The affordable housing strategy is obviously an important one. It's one that I struggle with because I think it's something that we're looking to developers to help solve this problem, and that's not going to be how we solve the problem. So I guess I'll be interested to see how we are kind of incentivizing isn't the right word, but working with these stakeholders to really push some of those housing, as you spoke to, Kim, the various types of housing that we need. And I beat this drum every time I get the opportunity, but that factors into our age-friendly strategy as well, right? There's a lot of gaps there on what kind of housing we build for people to kind of age in place in our community as well. So I know you guys are probably working with planning and development, and I think there's probably some information that will come back to us. The report looks good. I'm just interested to see how we will be working with those kind of stakeholders moving forward to be able to kind of put some of this stuff into action. And then in regards to the hub in Leduc, how accessible is it for youth at all?
The chair through to Councillor McCook, it isn't. It's 18 plus. The hub is 18 plus. And that is part of, and having Sarah here is helpful, but that is part of the concern with a lot of these shelters. Safety reasons, adult consent, etc., etc. A lot of them are geared to the adult population. There are very, very few places for youth to go. There's nothing regionally, so couch surfing is pretty much it, or going into Edmonton. And Edmonton can be a scary place for a youth, well, scary for an adult, but I mean, particularly scary for a youth. Who aren't familiar with it, people take advantage of them. So yes, it's a really, really tough one. There's a lot of liability with taking anything on that is youth. And I would suggest to you that's why I think regionally the focus always is on the adult piece, the liability, the risk, underage, and then whose responsibility is it? When we look at children's services, for example, we reach out to children's services, youth, if they're sort of like that 15, 16 years of age, and they're experiencing issues in the home, there's things going on in the home, they no longer feel that's a safe place for them to live. Children's services, and we reached out to them, they're pretty much like, this is a parent issue. This is a parent issue. This isn't a child in need issue, is what they pretty much tell us. And I think, Sarah, that's probably what your staff are told. And so there's this, I would say, sort of like 15, 16, 17 children's services aren't really there to provide services. They are trying to support the parents, but it's way more complex than that. And I think that's the piece that is falling through the cracks. That's the piece that's couch surfing, right, Sarah? That's probably some of the youth that you deal with at the youth center. We don't have the support through children's services, and I would suggest even provincially to even look at that piece, unless you're talking like youth that are in group homes, more intensive supports. But those ones that are, you know, like
Falling through the
on that
cracks.
on that cusp, which could go into more of a crisis type situation. You know, Councillor McCook, I don't know the answers to it. It's a really tough situation.
A big regional gap, clearly.
It is. And you know what, I say this, and this is not the answer, but thank goodness we have some great Beaumont residents and parents that are taking these youth in. It's not their job. They don't get funding supports through children's services, even to do that, which is problematic as well. There's some barriers. It's a systems issue, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Do we collect any stats regarding youth who would need to access immediate shelter and kind of that stopgap type shelter?
Yes, so those are the stats that you see under housing in your report. Those are youth that we know of. So there could be lots of other youth in the community. So those are the ones that we've just provided supports to at the youth center.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then in regards to the age-friendly, do you find that you are getting more seniors engaged with your office / your programs more than ever, or is it rising? Is it?
Sorry, I apologize. I'm allergic to cats and Kim has a cat. So I should have sat on the other side of Sarah. So I apologize that I'm moving, but I'm
Very allergic.
Sorry.
Yeah, get out of here.
You're the chair to Councillor McCook. Yeah, we find that we have a lot of seniors who, especially in the last year that I've been here, we've seen our numbers rise. I didn't bring the statistics today, but we've really found, especially coming out of COVID, that they're ready to engage. They've had that time where they have isolated or they've needed to isolate, and they're ready to get back out into their community. So it's been a really nice time between kind of looking at those stats of how do we connect with seniors more, whether it's through the EDI work that we did or through our seniors coordinator, because she also circulates surveys. I forgot to mention that before. She circulates surveys as well to see what those touch points are and how we can communicate. So we have, whether it's been, you know, coming out of COVID or just a readiness and a willingness, we have seen more seniors who are ready to engage, and it's been lovely. And I think even the event that we just had during Seniors Week, that was very telling. We had a record number of seniors come out, and we were so pleased to see that. So we're hoping to kind of build on that momentum.
That's excellent. Thank you. I think some of the things you mentioned tonight, even the adult service directory and the peace of mind planner, I wasn't aware of those. And so I'll definitely speak to those. And I think those are great resources for our seniors. Just one last question.
Keep going.
Councillor Munkoff-Swain kind of touched on this, so I won't belabor the point, but seeing as though we are seeing a rise in complex mental health issues and food insecurity, I won't put you on the spot, Sarah, and ask you, but I think it would be interesting to see what you would identify as a position or a program as to how we could better support the youth in kind of some of those core areas specifically that we're seeing a rise in issues. If there's anything you want to speak to now, you can, but.
Sure, through the chair to Councillor McCook. I did touch on the youth outreach worker position, but if yourself or other adults want to be involved in the youth center, I think now is the time where youth need to see that adults care about them. They're just growing up in a very different world and are bombarded with tons of information and they have access to things that they would never have access to in the past. And they just really need trusting, strong adults in their lives. And even just to stop by, like on a Fired Up Friday, I thought of that after I finished my comment to you, to say hello and to be like, this is who I am, like, what do young people need in this community, and kind of just let them speak for themselves. And I think that's really great, because then young people are like, oh, you know, they do care. And that's really important, because like I said, they're just, it's such a different world for young people to grow up in, and lots of young people are struggling. So it's just so important for us adults to kind of wrap around and to let them know that they matter, and that we'll do what we can to kind of help them navigate this strange world that they're growing up in, for lack of a better term.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's definitely a great suggestion. And I think that probably speaks a little bit to the mentorship program you were talking about as well, which I too think would be a great idea. But what you said would be a good way to start off. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. That's it, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Mayor Dallek.
Hey, Mr. Chair, appreciate that. Ladies, thank you for the presentation. My colleagues already talked about affordable housing. I won't go down that path. Great presentation, good information. I'm a big fan of Youth Center, as you are probably aware. From the tournament last year, we did contribute a nice amount of money to help the Youth Center with stuff that kids need. And I think the Youth Center is probably one of the biggest assets we have in our community. And we have total control over it, which is kind of nice. So I think we could offer some more resources, as already mentioned previously at the next budget round. We look at we have to decide various things, and Youth Center to me is a huge asset to this community. I do think we had an event a while ago where council came and met with the youth, and we had pizza or something. Is that event being planned again? We haven't had it for a while, I don't think, unless I missed it. But it's probably on your radar, I'm sure.
We celebrate the birthday of the youth center.
Right.
And I know that camps do attend that as well, and that's
In the fall, yeah.
In the fall,
Yes,
okay.
the center is turning 19 this fall.
Okay, perfect, right. So I look forward to that next event too. So yeah, I just want to give kudos to what the youth center does. I mean, it's an invaluable asset in our community. And I know when I went the last time there, I had a chance to speak to a couple of youth, and their stories were actually quite surprising. And it's interesting what you'll hear, what they'll tell you, they'll just start talking to you, you know, so it's a really good asset. I do appreciate that. Is it possible to have that directory in the peace of mind planner electronically emailed to us? We can have a look at that. And then also people I want to forward it to who may not be aware of it. I do know the 50+ club has a very large mailing email list. I'm pretty sure your staff's aware of that already, but they do appreciate the communication that they are getting from our FCSF staff. So much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everyone for the questions. I've kind of got one quick one per presenter. I'll start with Kim, I suppose. So on the affordable housing piece, we've talked about housing types and diversity in housing and affordability, and more importantly, availability. And the availability starts way back at the land stage, right? As Councillor McCook alluded to, you know, if you're looking for developers for support, what are we going to get? What aren't we going to get? But if we move the conversation from that into the pure housing type, one of the pieces, and this only half fits this conversation, the other half probably fits more maybe a planning and development type conversation. But one of the conversations that I hear a lot is folks whose children have left the house and they're wanting to change housing types in Beaumont as they age, as in move from a 2-story into a bungalow, and that housing type is just very, very unavailable. Time and time again, we hear that. You know, I recently heard of one couple that moved into Edmonton, didn't want to, but they moved into Edmonton because they couldn't find that here. And sometimes it's not even like, you know, pay to get it. It's literally not even there as an option, right? So, and I know there are market forces at play and such there, but one of the things that I do realize and look at as a barrier is actually, you know, the planning and development size, where our lots aren't big enough to build a bungalow on anymore. You know, so there is kind of a two-sided piece to that. And, you know, I guess just, this probably is not groundbreaking news, but we are losing folks in Beaumont who would rather age in Beaumont. We're losing them out of the community because we don't have that housing type. They don't want tall and skinny. They don't want floors of stairs. And it isn't something that all of them can afford to go into the new apartments, as we just noticed in Beaumont. As a complex tried to get off the ground and then didn't, right? So, not really just kind of a blah, there, but I think everyone is aware of those challenges, but we have to start finding some kind of a solution to that. And it does start with developers. It does start with planning development, but then the market forces are at play and this is what people are buying. But, there are also a group of people out there who aren't being serviced with a housing type that they would like. So, yeah, maybe I'll just leave it at that, Kim. There's been a lot of nodding for everybody. If you have any comments on that, but yeah.
I would add to that, yeah, it's the diversity in the types of building that we have here. But it's challenging because a lot of that is driven by the developers and the builders. And so
on the front end.
yeah, on the front end. And so I know that my colleagues in planning and development, that's a conversation that I hear quite often, and through the housing supply challenge where we're doing the mapping tool. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday about what you're speaking to. It's not just the affordable housing, it's across the spectrum and the types of housing. And we're hoping that somehow that tool, the analysis that we do, will help prepare us to be able to attract those developers. So I think there are some ideas that are percolating internally. So I would kind of stay tuned. We're aware of it. Planning and development aware of it. It's definitely a conversation that's being had for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there's a real nuance to Beaumont's demographics and desire and need for housing. I don't think it's as simple as postage stamping the region with all the same needs. Like I think there is a nuance at Beaumont. Moving on to the age friendly, I promised you a stat question. Do we have any metrics yet on the usage of the satellite food bank, or have we not been up and rolling enough yet, or do we know that?
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Chair. I'm going to defer that to Kim.
Okay.
Because she would have that information.
We don't currently have stats. So when a Beaumont individual makes application for a hamper, so their first point of contact, they can either come into FCSS or they can call the food bank directly. So the food bank will, if they are eligible, they qualify for a hamper, the food bank will then give them the option to pick up their hamper.
What A or B?
Yeah, so that they will be given that option. What we're discovering, it's very, very early days, but what we're discovering is there is still a little bit of a stigma for Beaumont residents, because there have been a couple of occasions that I've been made aware of where the family preferred not to pick up in Beaumont. So I don't know that we really thought about that when we entered into it, but there have been a couple of occasions where they said, no, we'll come and pick up. We don't want our neighbors to see us. And the conversation has certainly been, well, it's a separate access to the thrift store. You're not walking like through the thrift store. That you can remain anonymous by doing that. You can pick the time that works for you. But we have actually had a couple of families that have said no, they'd rather not. And they're fortunate because those are the ones that do have transportation. Not everybody does. So, and like I said, very early days. So that's 2 out of, I'm not sure what the stats are so far for Beaumont, but yeah.
Yeah, and those numbers will come together for sure. And as you just suggested, you're not sure what you might learn as this all comes together as well, right? So, and then just on the kids side of things and youth in Beaumont, and I've asked this question before as well, and it's a very broad question, but we have what we have at the youth center, and it's great, and the uptake is there, and we want to do more. Like the message is for the 3 of you, like in case you haven't heard it, council wants to do more with what you're doing. Like that resonates every time that you're in front of us. But school's about to end and the scooter brigades are coming out. There's a whole bunch of other kids in Beaumont that maybe haven't engaged with the youth center and haven't, we have the Green Shack program, now that will migrate some kids, but just wondering, extension programming from the youth center that maybe goes mobile or something. Is there any of that that's been concepted or in the works, or what about catching other kids and engaging them?
And I would say, not specifically from the youth center, we kind of have our hands full for
sure.
the work that we're doing, but conversations have come up around accessible recreation for young people, cost wise specifically, as well as just more opportunities in the scheduling of things. I know we're a big hockey community, which is great. I'm a huge hockey fan and play myself, but not all kids want to play sports. And so maybe looking at recreation through a lens of just getting kids to move their bodies and not necessarily as playing a sport, and providing opportunities that way. We do try to implement that programming into our center as well. But I think that it would be wonderful to catch some of those kids out in the community and provide them with those opportunities as well.
Yeah, you take the library bike and turn it into an activity bike or something, right? And then off you go, right? Like that type of a message, just start connecting with more. But yeah, I would look forward to any of those ideas on how to do more for more youth and kids in Beaumont. So the mayor has stats that he rattles out all the time about what percentage of the population is under this age and that age and stuff. And there's kids galore and school's almost out. So yeah. So.
If I can just add quickly to that, FCSS does provide summer programming, and that is 11, 12-year-olds. So the younger age of youth, those, I can't remember the exact numbers. So that's everything from learning about leadership, it's science, relationships. I think all but one is sold out. We're not sold out, sorry, because we don't sell it. All of them are full with wait lists but one, and that's even through the FCSS. So the appetite is there. These young people are enjoying what we're putting out as far as programming, and we've seen that grown since COVID. So we've seen that grown leaps and bounds. So we are certainly aware of that. Again, capacity wise, we are, I can't remember how many we're doing, 20 or so across the summer, but for sure there are other opportunities outside of the youth center, because youth need that diversity and that choice of where they go and recreate and learn. So they are coming to us as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, one of them that comes to mind was the Home Alone workshop or something where the youth came in there, and I heard that like you could do 10 more of them, right? Like, yeah, it was very popular, and once the families get talking about that, then all of a sudden there's more kids from here and here and here, and then your wait list form, right? But yeah, I think all of what we're talking about just shows the volume of need for more in the community, in the good work that you do. So thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, committee, for all of the good questions. We will move on to councillor inquiries. Are there any councillor inquiries this evening? Councillor McCook, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. I have one. Please provide the following information on crosswalks in Beaumont. How many times a year crosswalks are painted, and what are the timelines as to when the crosswalks will be painted?
Great question. Appreciate that inquiry a lot. Are there any other inquiries this evening from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, I will move adjournment at 6:04 p.m. Thank you very much.